Welcome back to conversation about moving forward in this new chapter of life now that the stay-at-home order has been lifted. And yesterday, I said that there were 5 things that I thought were going to be critically important if we were going to let God lead us in this new chapter in life, and if we were going to experience God with us in this new chapter in life. Yesterday, I talked about the importance of writing down the blessings of the last 6 to 8 weeks. If you didn't listen to that podcast yesterday, do me a favor. Today's conversation will make a lot more sense if you listen to yesterday's. So just hit pause for a second, grab yesterday's, listen to it, jump back in the conversation with us today, because naming the blessings is critical for us as we move forward together. And today what I want to ask is what's going to anchor us as we move forward. Let me give you an example. For the last several weeks of my life, I've been here in Grand Isle, mostly just to kind of quarantine myself and to stay safe, but also just to be able to focus on all of life and all the demands that have been required in these very unusual circumstances. And so I was walking on the beach, and as I was walking on the beach, I noticed this little piece of seaweed. That was not only in the surf, but it was really right next to where the sand was. And the waves from the Gulf of Mexico kept coming in and they kept coming out, right? Just the natural ebb and flow of the tide. When the grass was right on the edge of the water, and so it would come in and would almost land on the sand and stay there, but then the water would take it out again, and it was completely at the whim of the water. Back and forth, back and forth. There was nothing anchoring the seaweed. It was completely at the whim of the water. And I'm not quite sure if you've ever experienced this, but many of us, if we look back on our lives, can probably admit that sometimes that's how life feels. Sometimes it feels like instead of us living life, life is living us. Right? Instead of us choosing our schedule or choosing what the day looks like, for many of us, especially before COVID-19, that's how life felt, right? It felt like our calendar was driving us, or it felt like the day and everything that we had to do was determining our quality of life, rather than our quality of life determining our calendar or the things that we had to do. Sometimes life can feel like it's the water and we're the seaweed, and it's just taking us wherever it wants to take us. And if we're going to make it this week, we need something to anchor us so that we are firmly planted as we move forward together. Because there's going to be more opportunities for us in the next several days and weeks of our life, things that we haven't been able to do that we're now going to be able to do, which means that there are more waves coming at us that might seek to pull us back into a way of life that perhaps wasn't as healthy for us as we thought it was. And maybe that's one of the blessings of all things COVID-19. So if we're going to anchor ourselves at this stage of life, here's a couple things that we might do. Number one, 10 minutes a day just to reflect on the day. Now, I know that for a lot of us, you're already praying every day. Praise God if you are. But if you aren't, I'm just going to challenge you because I love you and I want us to stay anchored. You've got 10 minutes every day. And if you don't have 10 minutes every day, then trust me, you're too busy in life, right? 10 minutes every day, whether it be early in the morning where you're looking back on the previous day, or whether it's at night where you're looking back on the day that you just had. 10 minutes every day asking yourselves, how are you doing with the things that, for example, you wrote down yesterday? Right? Yesterday we talked about writing down those blessings, writing down the things that you don't want to lose. Well, anchoring us would be at the end of every day, you just go back to your list and you say, okay, how did I do with those things today? How did I experience those things today? Were the things that I experienced today that were threatening that? Let me give a concrete example. Let's say that there's a husband or a wife or a father or a mother, and one of the blessings that they wrote down in yesterday's activity was that they were more present to the people inside their house. As we move forward, it's important for that person to remain present to the people that are in their house. So to anchor them, they might spend 10 minutes every day looking at their list, and they may say, okay, was I present to the people that were in my house today? Were there things that were threatening me from being present to the people in my house, right? That's just an example. Whatever's on your list, I told you yesterday, write it down and keep it in front of you. Today, we're talking about daily, at the end of every day, or at least once a day, reflect back on the previous 24 hours and ask yourself, how you doing with those particular things? Self-awareness is going to be critical if we're going to move forward, because if we don't know that we're being taken out by the tide, next thing that we're going to know is we're going to be in deep water and we don't know how we got there. That's exhausting in life, and that's not a very safe or even healthy place for us to live. And just taking 10 minutes every day can really help us as we are trying to be anchored moving forward. Second thing that can anchor us as we move forward is giving someone in your life permission to check in with you about how you're doing. So let's go back to the example. That's right. Say that there's a couple, husband, wife, a father, a mother, and they've restored relationships. They're present to people in the house. Well, as we move forward now with social distancing still in place, but stay at home lifted, a husband might look to his wife and say, I need you to hold me accountable too, right? Being present to the family. Or a son might say to his father, or a father might say to his son, hey, I need you to hold me accountable to being present, to being in relationship with people in the house, right? That's just an example. Whatever yours is, whatever the blessings were that you wrote down, who's going to hold you accountable? There's two simple things that we can do to anchor ourselves. Number one, just every day look back and ask yourself how you're doing. And number two, have someone hold you accountable to those things. So here's your homework today. If you didn't do your homework yesterday, do it today, right? If you have not yet written down what are the blessings of the last 6 to 8 weeks of your life, do that today. If you've already done that, or once you do that, then just ask yourself two questions. When every day are you going to be able to look back on the previous day? Maybe you're a morning person and you're just looking back on the previous day. Maybe your lunch break is when you can do it. You can still time at lunch, 10 minutes, and you look back on the morning and the previous afternoon. Or maybe you're doing it at night, right before you go to bed, and you're just looking back on the day. Number two, what can you do today? You can also consider and name who's going to hold you accountable to those things. Because if we do those things, we're going to be anchored. We're not going to be swept away by life and all the new opportunities that we have. We're going to be able to let God lead us within the graces and blessings that He's blessed us with. And we're going to find that these next several weeks are going to be easier for us to manage. Looking forward to continuing to talk about the 5 most important things that you need in your life as we move forward. And until that conversation happens tomorrow, God bless you.